Ladies and gentlemen, this is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024.
Recording in progress.
6:01 p.m. and I'd like to call to order the Columbus City Council meeting for tonight. I'll encourage everyone to pull your microphones close. Allegiance, please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda for the May 22nd meeting. That's tonight. Is there a second?
This is Sue, I'll second.
Any questions or discussion before we approve? If not, I'll call for the vote. Rob, would you like to go first?
Rob, aye.
Janet, aye. Sue, aye.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye. Our agenda is approved.
Switching it up tonight.
Consent agenda. I move to adopt the consent agenda as presented. Is there any changes or any discussion, Janet?
I know I'm usually the one that messes us up, but not tonight.
Anyone else?
Hope I checked the commas. They're okay.
All right, I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Wait, did we get a second? I don't think we got a second. I'll second it.
Oops, sorry.
That's all right.
And Rob, aye.
Rob, aye.
Janet, aye. Sue, aye.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye. Is there anyone here who would like to speak at the public open forum or anyone online who would like to speak? Thank you. Our next issue will be the Minnesota Veterinary Neurology CUP, and that's pages 1 through 18 in our packets. Ron Hanegraaff is liaison, and he will lead the discussion for us.
Well, on May 15th, the applicant, Melissa Carpenter Anderson, was at the meeting, and tell you the truth, there wasn't much of a discussion. The Planning Commission kind of went along with everything, and there was no real complaints, and they sent a recommendation on it. Rob, you got any questions on this?
Yeah, Ron, I was just talking to Ron before. I just wanted to make sure that this meets the building standard for the area as far as the siding application and meeting that neutral tones. I don't mind that it's white. I just don't want to do some precedent setting. I know there was questions around Truck-A-Line and them being a white building and not being earth tones or neutral tones. So I just want to make sure, and maybe that's for Jack, if this is going to fit that, and there won't be any issue, just for the record.
That does meet the architectural standards. There is a percentage standard for stone, just for general purposes, but other architectural elements that are added to that can substitute for that 50% stone requirement. So this does meet those standards.
Okay, thank you.
And then this is Janet, I just want to mention, I went back and looked at the ordinance about the colors, because we did make a change to that after the Bear Homes and Truck-A-Line discussion. So I think we used the word neutral, but we didn't really define it. But we did say no neon, no brilliant colors. And I think that the problem we had, at least with Bear Homes, was that it was really this brilliant white. So I think the colors that she's presenting are fine with our ordinance standards.
Yeah, and I don't mind the color. I just remember all the talk around that, so I just wanted to be clear we weren't doing something precedent setting for the future. So that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions, anyone?
Beautiful looking.
Ron, would you like to make a motion?
I move to approve the CUP for Minnesota Veterinary Neurology, PIN 24-32-22-42-42-0010, as presented in the May 22nd, 2024 City Council packet, item C.2.
Is there a second? Anyone?
This is Janet, I second.
Any other questions for the applicant or discussions?
Yes.
Oh, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah, just one more. When are you breaking ground? When this is approved?
Hopefully,
I think.
it'll depend. We just finalized the GC today, so
Okay. Cool. And who are you working with for GC, if you don't mind me?
Working with Gardner.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Janet, I.
Sue, I.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye. So,
Congratulations.
welcome to the hood. Here we are. Number 3, ClearGov budget software presentation. Jack Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City staff has been researching software programs to assist in preparing city budgets. We discussed some of this information in our last work meeting, and we presented a proposal from ClearGov that seemed to suit our needs for this capabilities. We have a representative from ClearGov here tonight, Andrew Roth, who's going to give a presentation on the software and be available to answer any questions you may have after he finishes. Andrew, it's all yours.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Jack. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yep, very good.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Well, evening, council. As Jack said, I'm Andrew Roth. I'm the Solutions Advisor here at ClearGov. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present to you today. I'd like to start by giving you an idea about the conversations that Jack, Cheryl, and I have had so far. I'll share with you a little bit about who ClearGov is as well, so you know who you're talking to. And finally, just a few solutions and how they'll help. So let me pull up my screen here and get started. Oh, you know, I'm getting a message here saying host is disabled participant screen sharing. Is there any chance we could
Yep, hang on
get
one
that turned
second.
on? Okay.
There it is. Right.
Try that again.
Now we see the proposal, but we don't see you.
That's what happens.
Can
when
you
do
still
a
hear
share
us?
Screen.
Yes, I was hoping to share my screen. Is that possible?
Hang on.
You make him the presenter.
There you are.
Should be able to.
Hang on.
You click by his name, I believe.
Yes.
Hang on.
Oh, there we go. I think I've got it. Okay, wonderful.
There we
Everyone
go.
can see my screen okay?
Yes, thank you.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks for your patience there. Let me pull this up. So for some context, you know, during your budget process today, finance primarily is working in Excel, this 40-year-old software that it works well enough if you know how to use it. But the reality is that there are a lot of hands touching the budget. For finance, that translates to a lot of version control, a lot of different versions of spreadsheets with a lot of formula dependency. And formula dependency plus version control ultimately translates to a great risk of errors being introduced to the budget. And that's where we come in, because it's very inefficient for finance professionals to spend hours and hours on what is essentially data entry and quality control. So this is something that I'm going to talk to you about today that finance loves because it'll save them a ton of time while making sure that the budget stays accurate. Your departments will love it because it allows them to manage requests of finance on a shared platform so that they can see and interact with the budget. And at the end of the day, this is going to make your conversations at council meetings more effective while communicating more efficiently with constituents because there's greater transparency in regard to your budget and spending. I like to pause here because I mentioned this is built for local government. We're actually the most trusted provider of budgeting software to local government in the country. We work with about 1,500 clients. None of that means anything if I tell you that we help someone in Florida or Massachusetts or wherever. That's why I like to share just a few of your neighbors who are using ClearGov. This is not a comprehensive list of everyone we work with in Minnesota, but I didn't want to overcrowd the slide more than I already have. So we're built specifically for local government. Most software isn't. It's made for the private sector and relabeled, or it's built in big cities like Los Angeles and Chicago. So when I spoke with Cheryl, we talked about what local government needs, what Columbus needs specifically. We talked about complementing your existing finance systems, flexible workflows, collaboration where it's appropriate. Put another way, this isn't about asking Columbus to fit around the demands of our software. Instead, this software is built to support the budgeting processes and work within existing systems. It's tools. Again, we don't work with big government. We work with local agencies because we believe that every community desires and deserves a government that's empowered to work as effectively and efficiently as possible. That starts with tools. So when we get started, first thing we'll do is we'll get your finance team set up with our own in-house finance team made up of former government finance professionals and bring you on board with best in-class training. Besides getting your data on board, their concern is getting everybody comfortable in the software, connecting with existing systems like Banyan. Good news is, because we're talking about the budget, we don't want to break the budget. So this is made to be affordable as well. And to that end, let's go ahead and let's talk about the tools at play. So we're talking about building the budget and then presenting it. Presenting for workshopping, for reference in these meetings, for transparency with the public, et cetera. When we talk about building the budget, there's those three parts I showed you: capital, personnel, and operational budgeting. Today, that's all built in Excel, and we talked about spreadsheets. Capital budgeting, though, in ClearGov is a tool that's meant to make it as easy as possible to submit and monitor capital requests and outlays over a multi-year horizon. You know, Cheryl gave me the example of the fire truck you'll need to buy. Well, fire trucks, I've learned, are pretty stinking expensive. So planning out several years makes it super easy for the finance team to know what those costs are going to look like in a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, however far into the future we're planning out these capital costs. There's also really friendly, easy to understand dashboards around relevant projects, which is really helpful for getting a visual and having transparency with where that money is going. Personnel is where a lot of communities tell us they feel the greatest risk for errors in the record keeping. Because personnel budgeting, you know, your wages, additional pay, your benefits, is really strongly formula driven in Excel, and there's a lot of risk of miscalculation. So in ClearGov, you're eliminating that formula dependency. Excuse me. You'll also be able to model potential changes. Like if you want to experiment with what happens if we have a 3% cost of living adjustment. What's the effect of changing healthcare costs over time? If someone leaves or retires and we want to backfill that position, how does an overlap in their time affect the budget? Whatever the case is, scenario planning is going to give you a clear picture of how any of those possible changes affect the city's bottom line. It's about good planning to ensure that we're efficient and good stewards of the budget, not just in this year, but looking out toward the future as well. Today, operational budgeting is a back and forth process that involves a lot of spreadsheets, multiple versions. There's a lot for finance to monitor. It's also a mishmash of disorganized conversations going on outside of the spreadsheets. So in ClearGov's operational budgeting, we want to create a shared platform where those conversations can take place and budgeting can happen more transparently, more efficiently, and with less risk of error. One moment here, excuse me. Sorry, allergies, that time of year. And the last piece I want to give you here today is digital budget book. This is a web-first way to present your budget so that all of your budget that you're building in the back office can feed to a presentation automatically. Instead of spending time in spreadsheets, you'll automatically have visuals. You know, council, when you need to get answers about the budget, how awesome would it be to pull up an interactive budget book like this one here from Prior Lake and get a breakdown of where all of our funds are going here? Immediately visualized, you know, interactive, you know, still in the spreadsheet, however much data you want to include there. or in Victoria's budget book here. Let's pretend that we are in a meeting and the question comes up, well, how much revenue did we have from building permits last year? We can immediately pull that up and have the answer as well. You could also do like Red Wing. And Red Wing doesn't have the narrative. They don't have a lot of the details. In here in Victoria, they have overviews of each department and what their spending looks like. For Red Wing, it's just the numbers laid bare. Demographics, meanwhile, one more thing I'll show you here. They're going to really put decisions that are made about what to do with the budget and dollars here in context. So constituents see why some of these decisions are made. Why are we investing in more senior programs? Why are we putting more dollars out there for families? Why are we building a new school? Well, it's because we have a lot of young adults having children. And then the overall presentation here, we want to enable finance to create a beautiful presentation without needing to get a degree in design and spend time where they really need to be spent. That's what we're proposing here in a nutshell, is tools to build and present your budget. Again, this can be used to workshop, make it easily understandable and explainable. At the end of the day, this can become a public-facing website as well, so your constituents will appreciate that transparency too. Final note, I'll just add that one of the big reasons I hear about communities wanting to do the digital budget book is that they want to create a world where residents are coming to the city and its website for accurate information. Out there on the neighborhood app, Facebook, social media, wherever, it's all sources where, frankly, you don't control the source of information. Information may not be accurate. Maybe something someone misheard, which got out of hand and spiraled into a whole narrative. We want you to control that source of information and give your citizens accurate and transparent data, because that's what clear government is all about. That's what I have for you. What questions do you have for me?
Who has questions?
This is Sue. My question is, and I looked through most of the proposal, not all of it, but is this a year, you do it a year at a time? I mean, can you cancel after 1 year, or how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So we write this as typically a 3-year agreement. That said, we understand that government is always subject to appropriations, right? So budget time comes around and you guys decide, you know what, ClearGov was a nice experiment, but we don't need it next year. I don't think you're going to say that, but if that happened, we're always subject to appropriations. And we always put that appropriations clause into our agreements as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
This is Ron. I got a question. So this would be on our website? Is that what I understand? So is this something
Yeah.
like when it's 4:30 on Friday before Memorial Day weekend and Cheryl hits a button, it's right up to date when someone gets online and they see that, or does she have to place it back into the website? How does that work?
Yeah. So the data is going to be automatically updated in the year in question. So if she's building fiscal year 25, but it's the fiscal year 24 budget book, that's not going to update automatically with the New Year's budget data. But if she's building out fiscal year 25 budget book and she changes the data, it's going to automatically update for you.
Thank you.
Did I explain that okay?
So this is Janet. I think I had understood from our workshop that this platform doesn't actually live on our website. It's sort of, you access it through the website, but it doesn't actually live there. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So if you Google, for example, Prior Lake budget, you'll come to their webpage where they have all their historic budgets, and it just links directly to the ClearGov site. Now we do have customers who will embed the budget book so that all the data is there included, almost like an iframe. If you know what that is, essentially it displays as part of your own website. Most of our customers, though, will link to the ClearGov site.
Okay, and then my next question is, how far back, I mean, we're going to be loading data, obviously, for the year that we're working on, but we can also load data for prior years, is that correct?
Correct.
And how far back can we
there's-
go, or how far back do people usually go?
Yeah. Ultimately, it's as far back as you'd like to go. We recommend at least 3 to 5 years for benchmarking when building out that budget so you can see that historic data. That said, we have clients who come on board and they want to have 10 or 15 years of data. It's all according to your preference.
Okay, and then my next question is, if after a year or two, we decide that we're not going to continue with this, does the budget books that we've already built go away, or are they maintained like a PDF or something like that that can still be accessed?
Yeah, so the data is yours. You're no longer a customer. We don't have rights to hold on to the data and present it on your behalf. So you still have a PDF. All this data is easily accessible and savable to a PDF. The website, though, no, the website would go away.
Okay, and then in your proposal, you have a section about data requirements, and you said a few vendors include an export to ClearGov button. Is Banyan one of those?
No.
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 Of course
So the way this would work is when you come on board, our implementation team would map to your chart of accounts that you have in Banyan, so that we can receive that data in the form it is.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have right now.
So this is Rob. My only question is, as it relates to, you brought up the demographic thing with like a chart or bars that kind of showed, whether a community is trending to an older community or a younger community. Have you found or have you heard that possibly developers use that to kind of track, areas to develop in for certain things, whether it's senior care or things of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've heard about this being used all the time as a reference. The source for that data is the U.S. Census Bureau. So, it pulls directly. You don't need to maintain that or anything of the sort. You do have some option in the settings of how it displays. But I've heard about it being used as a reference, as a source for a lot of different.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So.
I have one last question. I don't know if you can answer it or not. It might be specific to whatever our website platform is on, but a lot of times when there's links on websites, you can get back to the website you were on pretty easily, and sometimes you can't. So if somebody clicks on the ClearGov link or the budget link or whatever we call it, is it going to be like then they go off to your to your platform and they can't get back without sort of re-logging into our, or is there a easy like back arrow that'll get them back onto our website?
Yeah, so it is an easy back arrow. Let me actually demonstrate that for you if you like. So you can see like here on Prior Lake, if I click on their 24 budget book, I bring it up and it's just a simple, actually opens in a new window. So it'll still be there for you.
Okay, so okay, that's good.
All right, so we've heard the sales pitch. What do you think, Cheryl? What do you think, Jack? How much of benefit is this? It's not inexpensive, but fill us in, please. Fill me in.
I think it would make budgeting easier. I think that we should try it. And if you decide you don't like it after 1 year, then we could look at different options. But I really like all of the information. I like how it's presented. I like how they will host it, and how we can do budgeting in real time. I would like to try it for 1 year.
Jack, as the interim administrator, do you think this is a step forward for us?
I definitely think it is. Our current system of presenting budgets is very unclear. It's kind of hard to follow. It's a system of probably maybe 20 pages of spreadsheets. So it's not intuitive and it's very difficult to go from one area to the next area. This would link in very well. I think it has all the features that we need to make good, clear, concise budget presentations to the council and also for the public to understand too. And I think one of the key things in being transparent and presenting information to the public is letting them know how their money's being spent. And this is a great tool, I think, for demonstrating that.
All right.
I just have one more question. So since we don't have the easy export to ClearGov button in Banyan, how difficult is it to export data? I mean, I've worked with software like this, and sometimes that can be the rate limiting step, trying to export the source data to what would be a really cool platform.
Yeah, for sure. So I mentioned when you come on board, we're going to map to your chart of accounts, what's there in Banyan. What that essentially means is that when we receive that data, we're going to teach a system that when something comes in with this account number, it's going to map over to this value in ClearGov. So we're essentially teaching ClearGov to understand what the markers on the Banyan export mean. Similarly, moving data back to Banyan from ClearGov, which typically this is done a couple times a year, moving between finance system and budget. It's going to be a simple flat file export. Probably there will be a couple columns that need adjusting, but essentially it's the same data, right? What's the budget by year, different line items. So did I answer that okay?
I'll give it a C. but okay, so
yeah.
Going back to
the short
clients,
answer is
going back to clients that use Banyan, give me a sense of like how long does it take to actually get the data that you need to build this budget book over to you? I mean, I imagine there's a range of how long typically or how many hours typically.
Oh yeah. So when you come on board, we will ask for a couple reports from Banyan. Our data team starts that mapping. Getting fully on board and using the software, typically 60 to 90 days is what we plan on. Some things certainly you can get in and start working on immediately, like building out narrative around the budget book first. But getting all your historic data loaded, bringing your current data in there, that's what the onboarding process is about.
Okay, and then this question's for Cheryl. Is there anything within our budget that's not in Banyan that he would need to get access to? I mean, are there things outside of Banyan that, I mean, I know we have always had our budgeting process be a bunch of spreadsheets, which I totally agree with all the risks of doing it that way. But are there other data that he would need to access that aren't living in Banyan?
No.
Okay. Now I'm done.
I'd like to add one other comment. In doing this budget the way it's been done in the past, and with just essentially Excel spreadsheets, Cheryl and I are probably going to have to spend a good week. Once a system like this is in place, then you can probably do a draft budget in a couple of hours. So there would be a cost savings in time in this. I don't have the exact figures, but I do know it would save the two of us quite a bit of time that we can put to other priorities.
Ron, you had a question?
Well, I had a question, but I think I'm confusing myself. This isn't like looking in a checkbook, right? In other words, nobody get online and say, well, we got 2.5 million in the budget and we spent $3 million, or, and as the months go, like we get our tax money from the county and it refunds the bank account. Do they see any of that, or?
No. So this is not going to be an open checkbook.
No.
It'll show what's budgeted. Checkbook is separate.
It would show what's budgeted and also could keep track on expenses to date. But we're going to give you those financial reports that I promised on a monthly basis. So you'll be able to keep up like that. That'd be more like a balance in your checkbook. But it will be, whenever you look at this in certain times of the year and it's updated, it can show what the budget was for this line item, what the expenses were to date, and it'll give you a good picture of where we are financially, and that, along with the financial reports you'll receive, will keep you up to date in almost real time. And it's just something you can access too and pull up some information if you're curious about the budget items, kind of what's been spent. So it won't open us up to anything that's going to be sensitive information or anything that's non-public.
Thank you.
Sue, you're a techie.
No,
Any que-
I'm good.
You're good?
Yep.
All right. Anybody else, Rob?
I'm good.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I will. So I may, excuse me, I move to approve the proposal by ClearGov to purchase the budgeting software as presented in the May 22nd, 2024 City Council packet, item C3, attachment 1.
This is Sue, I'll second.
Any other questions or discussion for anyone? I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Janet, aye.
Sue, aye.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye. There we go.
Can't wait to see it.
Yep.
Item number 4, Anoka County Score Grant, and in our packet, it's pages 49 to 63.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Annually, the city applies for the Anoka County Municipal Score Grant. The application is a request for funds to support and increase recycling opportunities for the city of Columbus. The grants are funded from residential and commercial county solid waste and recycling taxes. Grant funds in the amount of $31,011 for the year 2025 are available to the city. These funds are to be used as follows. Base funding, which is calculated by a program which allocates each city in Anoka County $10,000, plus you get $5 per resident in addition to that, and that's a total of, there's 1,573 households, so there's an additional $7,145. These funds can be used for our recycle events, which are spring and our fall recycle days, the commingle dumpster, membership dues, and promotions. The other aspect of this is the enhancement funding, which we can qualify for up to $6,526. It's used for our summer curbside events, park recycling, and our organics program. And the balance of this can be used for administrative costs in the amounts of $7,340, which is essentially approximately 25% of this grant. As I said, the city's funding is based on a $10,000 allotment that each municipality in Anoka County receives, along with an additional $5 per household allocation. The household counts used for the allocation calculation are from the 2022 Met Council demographic estimates for 2025. The city's tonnage goal for this year is 469, for 2025 is 469 tons. The city met their annual goal requirements in 2023 and 2021. The tonnage goal is set by Anoka County, but there is no penalty if the goal is not met, but it is there to encourage recycling. The city's done a great job in the past 2 years, and we're on target to meet our 2024 goal. So again, these are funds that fund our entire recycling program, so there is no impact on our general levy budget by using these funds for that use. I also have Lori's logged in too, if anybody has any questions. The question was asked of me is there anything else we can use these recycle funds for? The way the grant is written and the rules and regulations pretty well restricted to these categories that I just enumerated in the presentation.
Any questions or discussion, anyone?
This is Janet. I do have a few questions. So I was looking through the grant itself, and on page 54 of our packet where there's the promotion base funding, I know Lori's put in dollars for the flyer and for the postage and mailing list. I was wondering whether or not I imagine those days are pretty busy when we have the drop-off events, if she ever has any need for volunteers to help with that, and if looks like there's dollars available to incentivize volunteering. I don't know if she's thought about that or not, but I was thinking that might be something to consider.
There could be, sometimes there's need for helping people to direct traffic. Generally, the vendor that we hire to do that pretty well runs the program as far as unloading, directing people where to go. I do know that in the mornings when these things open, it can be pretty hectic, so it wouldn't be a bad idea maybe to have some people here during those early hours of the operation.
And then my other question under that same category is there's a category for educational entertainment, which I don't know what that exactly is, but one of the things I thought about was for a Fall Fest, if we had a booth or a display or something that we could man, again, it might take volunteers, and we could certainly incentivize participation in that way. But I was thinking that there might be dollars available to support something like, trinket giveaways at Fall Fest, or, giving away the biodegradable bags or something like that. And it seems like that would be the place to put it. So that was just another idea that, if she hadn't thought about it, maybe that we could do something like that too.
And that's certainly something we could look at, and that event would be a great way to promote this also.
Yeah. People like free stuff. And then the other question I had is on page 56 at the top that says program administration base funding is $400. That number's provided to us by the county, right? Like we don't get to say, oh, but this is how many hours it really takes, and
Correct.
okay. Those are my questions.
Anything else, anyone? In that case, I'll make the move to approve that staff submit the Anoka County Municipal Waste Abatement Grant application for the City of Columbus for funding for the program of the year 2025 in the amount of $31,011. Is there a second?
It's Rob, I'll second.
Any other discussion?
No.
Do we want to amend that to include those two suggestions, because that would increase the dollar value?
For the educational portion?
Yeah.
Including the suggestions?
The $31,011 is the max that we can apply for, and that's
Even if you're adding these other two items?
that's correct. We'd have to try to work those in with the existing dollars. What this grant does, they give us every municipality gets $10,000, and then for each household, you get another $5. So that's the limits of the grant that's available to us.
Does that answer your question, Janet?
Well, I don't have the grant. I don't have the grant language in front of me, so if that's how it is, that's how it is. It just seems that they have all these extra things that you can do for enhancement, but then there's no dollars to fund them. That makes no sense to me.
There's, I think there's ways that you can maybe switch some of the funds around if you need to within that amount. But this is the max that is available to the City of Columbus.
Okay, so then I guess your motion's just fine.
Well, then I'll restate it, that I move to approve the staff submit the Anoka County Municipal Waste Abatement Grant application for the City of Columbus for funding for the year 2025 in the amount of $31,011. Is there a second?
Rob, I'll second.
Any other questions? I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Janet, aye.
Sue, aye.
Ron, aye?
And Jesse, aye. Item number 5, council workshop meeting date change, and that's on page 64 of our packet.
And I'll read the background information. The schedule for the 2024 City Council workshop meetings was approved by the council on December 13th, 2023 meeting. The workshop meetings are currently scheduled on the second Tuesday of every month at 5:30 p.m. Due to current conflicts with this date and the employment schedules of the council members, it is recommended that the workshop meeting be changed from its current date to the first Tuesday of each month at 5:30 p.m. Pending approval of this request for the meeting date change, the new schedule will be published in the Forest Lake Times and revised on the city website. So this was discussed at our workshop quite thoroughly, I think.
It was discussed at our EDA workshop, so even though it wasn't a council workshop, we were all here and discussed it, and I think we all agreed that the first Tuesday would work. So just making sure, I know I checked my calendar and moved it already, so is it still good for everybody?
It's fine for me.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Do you want to make the motion?
Sure. So I move to approve the change of dates for the city council workshop meetings beginning June 4th, 2024, from the second to the first Tuesday of the month for the remaining 2024 calendar year.
It's Rob, I'll second.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Janet, I.
Sue, aye.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye. Our next item is Midco Broadband Partnership Grant. And Janet, would you lead the discussion, please?
Sure. Excuse me. Midco will be applying for funding from the Anoka County Broadband Partnership Grant Program. The grant will fund a $2.2 million project to provide high-speed internet to 127 unserved or underserved residents, actually it's households, in the city. Midco's share of the cost would be approximately $835,000, and the city's contribution would be a cost of up to $65,000. The grant would fund the remaining portion of the $2.2 million. If this project is funded and upon its completion, 90% of Columbus households will have access to high-speed broadband. Funds are available to serve the remaining 10% of the pockets of homes without service through line extension grants, and these are available through Minnesota Department of Deed. Information on the program can be obtained by contacting Jack Davis at the Columbus City Hall at the main number if anybody's interested in doing those line extension grants. The other thing that Midco has told us is that they will give us the names and addresses of households that meet the criteria for that, and then city staff can contact them and encourage them to sign up through the Deed website, and that's how these things get funded, the line extension grants. City staff requests that council consider approval of the letter of support and commitment for Midco's grant application as exhibited in attachment 1 to this report. So if you look at your packet, you'll see a map, sort of cartoonish type map of Columbus and the areas that this grant would cover. That's on the right-hand side of the page. On the left-hand side is the sort of neighborhoods that we're talking about and the total number of passings and what the total cost of that is. So that is straight from the grant application. The grant is due to Anoka County on June 10th, I believe, if I'm remembering right. And then there is a draft letter of support on page 68 of our packet. And pretty much just reiterates what I just read to you. Happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions, but I will say that this project has been going on for a while. It started the year I started on the council was when COVID started in 2020, and that was a big topic for everybody. Columbus was in a really challenged area for internet, and I think the money that we used from our, whatever you call them.
It was the CARES and the ARPA money, yep.
To get Columbus up to speed, and now 90% with the other 10% being accessible at least. I mean, that's a huge goal. So I appreciate all the work that you've done on this, and I know that I've been able to take advantage of switching to Midco from the poor service that I was getting. So I really appreciate it. And I know we talked the other night that the funds are in the budget and we wouldn't have to come up with the funds. So, yeah,
Right,
I'm in
yes.
favor of that, so thank you.
Be coming from our EDA budget, which makes sense considering how important having high-speed internet is to development in our city. I mean, I will also call out that Midco has been an exceptional partner in all of this. When we started this process, Bill, you might remember this, we wrote letters to 7 different internet providers asking them if they'd be willing to partner with us, and Midco is the only one that came through. And they've been really responsive and you know, have really, I think, prioritized our ask, and so I'm really grateful for their support on this.
Yeah, I just want to share, there's a portion on there where it says Xinyu Street Northeast, and there was a point in time where none of the providers would bring. There was supposed to be part of the Thornbeck Preserve or said that, and they had promised it, and that was before I was on council, so I'm just hearing this from residents right out on the campaign trail, but their only availability to get internet was either through like a hotspot through a wireless company or to be on Starlink, which some of you know how expensive that Starlink is, and they have rights over that area as well. But that's fantastic. I think the people on Xinyu as well as all the rest of them are very happy about it. So thanks.
Would you like to make the motion, Jen?
I surely will. So I would move to approve the letter of support and commitment for the Anoka County Broadband Partnership Grant application and project as presented in the item C.6, report and attachments of the May 22nd, 2024 City Council packet.
This is Sue, I'll second.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Janet, aye.
Sue, aye.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye. Item number 7, you have set the agenda for the June 4th, 2024 workshop meeting, page 69, and it reads, our council workshop meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 4th or June 11th at 5:30 p.m. Pending council workshop meeting change of date. The following items are recommended for the agenda: Oracle Fishbowl software presentation pending, MinSpec pending, and the 2025 budget report and beginning discussions. The staff recommends that the City Council set the agenda for the items presented or make additions or deletions to this list as appropriate. Anybody have any problem with June 4th or June 11th?
I think we've already approved the change of that date, but I can confirm that both of those presenters can be here at our June 4th meeting.
Both Oracle and MinSpec.
Correct.
Okay, let's go with June 4th. And I am really curious what Oracle Fishbowl software is. That sounds like fun. Do you know? Who knows?
Give us the info.
Oh, you're pointing at me? I am like the least experienced person in this.
Public Works software, please.
So the Oracle Fishbowl software is the software that Elizabeth started working on 5 years ago. We've kind of worked through the process. Oracle kind of changed their plan, and then Fishbowl came on board. And Oracle basically is a cloud-based server company that stores data. Fishbowl is the software that allows us to put that data into storage and also allow us to get it back out. So all of the files and stuff that we have around this room will all ultimately be scanned and stored in the cloud, and then that allows us to access that at a lot faster rate than we can today. And it just makes things a lot more efficient. Obviously, most people know how that works, so that's kind of what that will be about.
Okay, thank you. That does sound exciting.
And one other thing, too, we talked about is we're running out of space to store paper here, and this would solve that problem. Things like property files will be then electronically stored. Places where I've been before, when this has been done, then the property owner is given the opportunity to take their paper files that we have. There would be some paper files that we'd still maintain, but this would give us a lot more space in City Hall And as Jim said, it'd be a much more efficient means of storing and retrieving information, and a lot of it, or most of it, would be accessible via the website to the public.
So I'll make the motion to approve the agenda for the June 4th, 2024 City Council Workshop Meeting as presented and/or as amended. Is there a second?
This is Ron, I'll second.
I'll call for the vote.
I have a question.
Question.
When are we going to do the ordinance on the septic? I was thinking that was at this workshop.
We can add that. That's going to be a long discussion. If you want to add that, we can switch some things around.
Well, it looks like it's a pretty full, I mean, the budget could take a while.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on,
We
we have,
we could set a limit on these presentations. The MinSpec presentation was probably going to be 15, 20 minutes. The Oracle Fishbowl presentation, probably the same length. We could set a time on our budget presentation. This will be the first one. And then we could at least start the discussion on the Chapter 14 changes, if you want to add that to that.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor and Council. The product that our office sent back is detailed. There's a number of questions that are kind of built in. We had anticipated that we would go through those with staff and that we would crank out another document round so that it would look cleaner by the time it gets to the public, so there'd be less embedded questions and more answers.
would this be too soon to then put it on the agenda?
It could be, although, you know, that discussion could happen next week, and, you know, subject to, I saw Chris on the line and others' schedule, that could happen next week, and then a draft could be turned in time for the June 4th meeting. But I just wanted to give that proviso, so I think you'd rather see a cleaner document than one that has a lot of bubbles, question bubbles in it.
Oh, I've seen those bubbles a couple of different times, so
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're thinking you'll be prepared by that time, we should add it on the agenda.
Okay.
All right.
Could I speak for 1 second?
Certainly.
This is
Go ahead,
Carissa, sorry.
Yep.
Hey, guys, I have not been able to read through the chapter 14 from Bill's office quite yet. I did talk to Chris today, and we might need a little bit more time. So if we're not ready by the 4th, would that be okay to move to the next workshop meeting?
That's fine with me. If it's not ready, we can do it.
Do you want, Carissa, do you want us, this is Janet, do you want us to put it on here? And if we're ready, we'll do it. And if you're not, you don't have time to do it, then we'll just bump it to the next one?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That'll work. I just don't want to disappoint you guys if we can't get to it.
No problem.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Carissa. Anything from anyone? Move on. Oh,
So we need to vote.
Second.
we have
we
a
had-
second. I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Janet, aye.
Sue, aye.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye. City engineer report, Kevin. I've been racing up and down your nice roads. Seems to have worked out pretty good.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, that was going to be one of my items. If you haven't driven down Running Aces Boulevard or Howard Lake Drive, that's our microsurfacing product that we, first time that we've done that here in the city. It definitely provides for a much better ride on those roads, and I think it'll definitely add some longevity to those as well. We don't have the roads striped yet, so that's yet to be done. We did do some temporary stuff around the racetrack just to make sure we controlled the turning movements and whatnot, but it's not complete yet, so.
It seems to be very nice.
Yeah, so the other item I wanted to touch base on, and I did, you should have gotten a memo from me that Jack emailed out earlier in the week. It's in regards to Potomac. The county is moving forward with evaluating an improvement, and their next step is to issue a request for proposals for engineering services to do the preliminary and final design, as well as the environmental documentation and permitting. In my discussion with Jerry Auger last week, he was telling me about this, And he asked a question in regards to whether they should include in their scope the potential of adding a trail to Potomac. And, you know, it seems like a good idea. Jim and I talked about it. We certainly would recommend that, at least from the standpoint of evaluating it to see, you know, what the cost would be. Potentially, I mean, it's 3 miles, so it's not going to be a cheap item. But at the minimum, I would say that, you know, if we were to proceed forward, at least get the area graded out so that there could be a trail added at some point in the future. But at this point, it would be just a matter of adding that to the scope of their request for proposals so it could get evaluated, and then have the opportunity to bring it back to the council to see if you want to continue moving forward and keep it in the plans and specs for bidding.
And the county will pay for the trail?
No, this is a local cost.
This is a city thing.
Yes. That's
So
why.
even if they do the bookwork on it, we have the opportunity to say no?
Correct, yeah, we would want the option of saying no. I mean, they wouldn't proceed forward if they knew that they weren't going to get money from the city to have it done. So that they would definitely be seeking city council approval to move forward. And I'd want an interim step there where we would see, you know, what the potential cost would be and what the implications of that are. So.
But they'll come up with that. They'll come up with the possible cost.
Correct. Yeah, and they'd likely look for a cost share on the engineering side of it as well to pay for that evaluation. I don't know what that cost will be. That'll be a function of what the proposals are. So.
Well, I say let them figure it out. We can decide.
No,
You know, if it's $1 million,
There's a cost up
it
front,
ain't gonna
though,
happen.
isn't
If
there, for us
it's
to let
50,000,
them-
we can do it.
I don't think so.
For the estimate, right? We have to pay for them to
We would
work
have to
up the
pay.
estimate.
We would have to pay for the evaluation as well.
But we have to pay for the evaluation of the road, whether it includes the trail or not. Is that correct?
No, just for the
No.
trail.
Just the
It's a
trail,
county
okay.
road, so the county will, you know, fund the road portion of it, but it would be just the trail component of it. They would look to the city to fund that portion.
Well, if you could find out how much that would cost, I mean, I would love a trail, that'd be awesome, but where do they put it? In the ditch? Or do they put it in the,
That's
on the
that's
private
what the engineering
property?
study would determine, so.
Okay,
But I don't know what the cost would be. It would have to go into the RFP first so that they could get bids on it and determine what the cost would be, and then we could decide whether to move forward or not.
Okay.
So,
Do you know if they have to buy right away?
likely. I don't know that for sure, but you know, with adding a trail, there could be even a bit more potential need for right-of-way, but I don't know the total answer to that.
I would say on the east side of that, the east side of that road, they cleared it out pretty heavily, you know, and there's quite a bit of right-of-way there that they cleared out already. I think, what do they maintain, 27 feet off the edge of the road?
I don't know what that was. Their standard when they can is to get 50 feet off a center,
Okay.
maybe even 60, depending on the type of roadway it is.
I'm
I
just
don't know
thinking
if
back to
I
Kettle
don't know if
River, they
Potomac has.
maintain 27 on each side.
So.
I think there's some portion of that road that they have more right-of-way than, as you go north, I think there's less right-of-way than on the south end. So it might be 100 or 120 feet up to Notre Dame, and then it might be less if you go, or sorry, not Notre Dame, but Camp 3. And if you go north of that, I think it's potentially less than that, but not positive.
Okay.
County roads right-of-ways vary all over the place. The old right-of-way standard was 80 feet, and newer standards are up to 100, 120 feet. So we'd have to check and see exactly what it was on the length of that street, and also depending on what the topography was, there may be some drainage requirements in there, some ditch work, and it's also a pretty long length. So I would imagine that there would be various differences in the right-of-way width through different segments of Potomac Street.
So Kevin, are they, they're doing an RFP for the engineering portion of this?
Correct.
Okay. And did I hear you say that they would expect us to cost share that engineering report?
As it relates to the trail.
Is it, okay. And are you, I mean, I know that several cities that have done trails have gotten grants for that. Is there anybody in your office that has a connection to, the agencies that provide opportunities for finding grant funding to offset some of the costs of trails?
We have a grant unit in our
Okay.
company.
Because I think that would be something we would want to pursue, obviously. And I think that it's it's been part of our park master plan in the works to try to connect to existing trails around us, so I think it fits in really well.
Sure, yeah. No, that was my thought too, is that if nothing else, if we could get at least graded out, they're targeting 2026 for this construction of this project. That would give us some time to pursue some potential trail funding. The ones that I know of, there's some DNR money. Whether this would fit or not, I don't know. We'd have to check into other sources too, so.
Okay, thanks.
I would say on this, I've heard a lot about people wanting alternate places in the park to walk and explore and things. And I think during our budget, I mentioned there was some grants that the city of Blaine got to connect schools and parks. There was some sort of grant funding for that. So if we tie that all together somehow, maybe. I'm interested in it myself.
All right.
Do you need a motion or just direction?
I think direction is adequate. I'll let them know that to include that in their scope, but also include it as a breakout cost that could be brought back to the council for final approval.
Great, thank you.
The other item related to that is it's likely our transportation group would be interested in proposing on this project. I don't know would the council have any issue with our transportation group being involved or proposing on this work?
No, I don't.
Go for it.
Okay, just
Give us a
wanted to
good
check
deal.
that. And then the only other item is related to our maintenance project. The cracks sealing work is ongoing, and I think they're about well over half done. So I would anticipate sometime early next week they would have the crack sealing done. So that work is progressing. That's all I have.
Thank you. Attorney report.
Mr. Mayor and council members, just two items tonight. First, a legislative update. You probably all saw that it was like crashing the cars, but a lot got done, a lot didn't get done. The problem is the bonding bill didn't get done, and so we did not get $615,000 for North Hornsby. So disappointed in that. There was a late-breaking bill that was a cash-only bill, but that got passed by the House and not the Senate. One of the issues is there was a lot of politicking around the creation of delays. Both sides accused the other of delaying. It happens in election years. The reason we saw so much activity last year is because it was a non-election year, and the Democrats controlled, the two chambers and the governor's office. So, on the positive side, and there is, good news. The good news is we got hearings on both bills. So we dropped two bills. We had authors on two bills. We got hearings on both bills. The fiscal disparities bill has more visibility than it did in probably 2 or 3 years. And the bonding request was modest, and everybody we worked with said kind of it's a no-brainer. Columbus doesn't have its hand out all the time, unlike some cities. It's a regional asset to connect the multiple cities through that corridor. And Karen Housley in particular, who sponsored the Forest Lake bill, said she'd be happy to bring this back again next year. And obviously our authors were just terrific, both Senator Kroon and Representative West. So a lot of good tread work on behalf of all of you and with all of you. Particular shout out to Janet Hegland, who appeared with us almost every Friday morning to help us work on updates and strategy, and also your interim city administrator was at many of those meetings as well. So thanks to their support. And as you know, the mayor was out on behalf of one of the large businesses in town and made quite a bit of headway there in representing the community and that asset. So you guys are no strangers to, how it works downtown, down in St. Paul, and if you desire to go back again, the path is, well worn. So, any questions?
Just a comment. When we began all this last, whatever, February or November or whatever it was,
Probably November. Yeah.
we had all discussed that it probably wasn't going anywhere because of the makeup of the House, Senate, and the governors. However, you told us, I think, that by being present and being active, we're seeding the waters for next year. And I think you were pretty accurate on all of it. And next year is right around the corner. And maybe if we have a little bit of a break this fall, we could be lined up next year to help settle some of the big issues for Columbus. So you did your part, we did our part. They heard us. They'll be happy just not to have us banging on their doors next year. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah,
And thank Margaret for us too.
Yep, and I just have one quick question, because it looked like did the sports betting thing not do it, it didn't get passed,
Right.
so nothing happened on that. So
Right. One thing that we should check on is the sports betting didn't get passed, but there was the historical.
That one did get passed.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they had passed that bill, independent of the sports betting bill, and what that means is that there cannot be wagering on, on these machines that use prior run horse races. I think both Canterbury and Running Aces had already purchased those and planned to roll them out. They got the Minnesota Racing Commission to okay it, and then the legislative groups got upset about the fact that they thought that the Racing Commission was overstepping their bounds and quickly passed a bill that said, oh, no, you can't. So I don't know what they do about that. They'll probably have to file a lawsuit or something.
Most likely. With regard to sports betting, though, it's not going to go away, right? Because, surrounding states have it. It's just making a 3 or 4-way deal so that the tribes, the tracks, the state are all on board. And, I guess if there's any good news there, that the longer people are in rooms talking to each other, it's like the Uber Lyft bill, right? I mean, that did get passed, and I know something about it and the politics of it, and it took 2 or 3 years, and it got done. And so I think, by the same token, sports betting should get approved at some point, and, and all of us believe should include relief for the tracks.
Thank you.
Then my other item is, I heard from the attorney for David Fisher Investments. David Fisher Investments was going to take over the apartment, I say was because they're not going to, was going to take over the apartment project from David Harchenko. And, they had some discussion towards the end of their deal about pretty small things relating to escrows and escrow accounts. I think they got that all worked out. By the way, we should get our fees from Harchenko, the city fees that were related to the review of that project. But at the end of the day, Katie Melander, representing David Fisher, said we're going to step back from the project. Doesn't mean we're not interested. They just don't want to jump right back into a purchase agreement when the financing markets aren't there for this type of project. So we left on good terms, but they just said we're not ready to sign another purchase agreement. What that means, and the interim city administrator and I have talked about, whether it's time now to revisit the whole marketing of the quads. You've got the road in on the northwest side, you've got interest on the northwest side, you've got really a prime site along the freeway, a great apartment site, a great commercial site. Do you want to continue to market it through, your signs and your efforts? Do you want to look at, a broker? There's what I've sensed is there's more activity as people get ready they're not quite ready, but they're getting ready for projects. And so all of a sudden, there's this uptick on the work you see that leads to projects. That's engineering, architecture, permitting, entitlements. So you don't have to decide tonight. It's probably something for your EDA workshop to kind of bat around. So that's, I think with at least the pause or conclusion of that whole 2.5 years of extensions and so forth, it's time to maybe rethink how we market those parcels. They're great parcels. The city's had pretty good luck in selling property, right? So, it's not all bad news, but some of the prime sites are still available, including a lovely little corporate campus site up on the northwest quad overlooking a wetland.
Up on the hill.
Great road access, thanks to Public Works and Engineering. But anyway, so more food for thought as you put together agendas.
Anything else, Bill?
Nothing until the last.
Planning Commission report, Ron Hanegraaff.
I don't really have anything other than I did attend that, whatever we want to call it, Red Litter Day, when we got rid of all the junk out here. That was pretty well operated. It wasn't that crowded, though. I don't know if you heard anything about it, Jim, but it was well organized. I like that, the same people that've been there for years, or the years I've been going there. It was pretty well operated, so. Other than that, nothing.
EDA report.
Are you skipping the city council report? Are you skipping the city council member report?
Not intentionally. All right.
Well,
Mayor, I have no report. It was covered under pages 65 and 68, so.
Yeah.
So I was just going to mention that we went to the Forest Lake Chamber Legislative, I think that was, Ron was there and Jack and the mayor and myself. It was actually really well attended, and Senator Kroon was there as well as Karen Housley. They talked about, this was obviously before the meltdown, so they were still talking like things could happen. But I just have to say, Senator Kroon has been an incredible partner for us this year and has really gone to bat for a number of issues that were important to Columbus. And the fact that they didn't come through doesn't speak to the effort he put into it, so.
Sue.
no report.
Ron, anything more? And I have nothing. Public, no, EDA. Jack.
Thank you, Jesse. At our EDA workshop and regular meeting last week, we brought the subject back up about the discussion of how we're going to handle the business retention and expansion program. We have 2 volunteers that are going to assist in that, Judy Huntosh and Karen Fleming. And I think we'll come up with kind of a proposal to initiate that here, hopefully in July after our next meeting. We also discussed about marketing and branding, several different ideas. Approved a concept for using the billboard covers on several of our locations along the freeway, and then went on to discuss basically the city EDA budget for 2025.
Thank you. Public Works, Jim.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Except the roads are really nice. I hope that lasts for 10 years.
Not the white tape around.
You and me both.
Number 7, interim city administrator report, Jack.
I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Personnel committee report, Sue and Janet.
Just
Drum
want,
roll, please.
oh no,
Oh.
this isn't quite the drum roll
Oh, we're not
point
to the
yet. I
drum roll
know.
yet. Okay.
I do have one thing to bring up, and this has to do with an item of business that we had at our last council meeting, which was the resignation of Connor Keith. As you recall, Connor is our public information coordinator, and his last day will be the end of this month, and he's moving to Baltimore, right? Baltimore, yep. So I think Jack has had a chance to talk to staff about how to divvy up his responsibilities after May 31st. And one of the ideas that came back was that, at least as it pertains to the website and being able to populate things on the website and update, send out the minutes, those sorts of things, that this is something that Connor could do remotely from Baltimore and is willing to do that. So I think that we talked about this in our personnel committee and thought it would make the most sense if we just maintained him as an employee on a part-time basis or a casual basis. We can figure out that part so that he would still get his same hourly wage and would be able to help us out for the interim till we kind of figure out whether or not this position needs to be posted or whether or not we divvy up the responsibilities across, other areas. So I'm looking to the council to get feedback on the idea of utilizing his expertise remotely for the purposes of maintaining the website. And that was primarily it, right?
That's correct.
Website, yeah. We thought the newsletter, we could hold off on that since it's not due for another 6 months. We can figure that out later.
Sounds good to me.
How many hours you talking about?
I don't know, did he give you a sense of that, Jack?
No, we were going to have that conversation today, but he was ill and couldn't come to work today. So we'll have that tomorrow. I'm thinking, it's going to be probably, say, 10 hours a week, somewhere in that range.
So what we could do is, I could make a motion that we would extend his employment as an employee for no more than 10 hours a week. He would have to report, on an hourly basis what he's working on and take his direction from the city administrator. And then we can revisit it in 2 or 3 months, see if there's a longer-term solution that makes sense or if we are okay with doing this for now. So that's my motion.
Okay, I second. This is Sue.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call for a
So
vote.
is there a cut on benefits, or what's just an hourly wage?
Well, he would be benefits eligible for 10 hours a week.
Okay.
He would or wouldn't?
Would not.
Would not, that's what I thought. Okay.
I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Janet, aye.
Sue, aye.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye.
That's it for me.
Now, are we ready for the drum roll?
Yes.
So we're asking Ellen, our consultant, to come up and give us feedback on the council. So we put together, and I didn't write this down, sorry. We had our final interviews last week. We had our staff meet and greet, and we had the public meet and greet. And then the council took all the information along with the personality assessment and then ranked our top 3 candidates and sent them to Ellen. So she is going to give us a little summary of what she received.
But before you begin, pull your microphone up, Ellen, and give us your name and, for the record,
where you live.
your name and what you do and why you do it.
Okay.
For the record.
My name is Ellen Heinrichs. I'm a human resource and organizational development consultant working with the City of Columbus and primarily with the Personnel Committee. And it's been my pleasure to work with the committee in creating and applying a rigorous search process in finding your permanent city administrator. And as Sue spoke of, we've had a lot of inputs into the decision that the council will be making tonight. And some of the feedback that came from the citizens earlier this week was, all 3 are great. Can't you find positions for all 3? And isn't that how it goes? You choose the one, can't choose all 3. An update from today is that Eric Johnson, we withdrew his application from the permanent city administrator position. So yes, you all provided to me independently the ranking of your choice, which of course is based on lots and lots of information from lots of sources. And it was unanimous that your choice for the permanent city administrator is Jack Davis.
Oh.
So, so if Mr. Mayor, if you and council can share a reason why you made that choice.
So this is Sue. I just want to start because I did make a few notes, just, mainly about our process. We had started, if everybody doesn't remember, back in October of 2023. The Personnel Committee took the task seriously because this is a big deal for Columbus. 20 years with the same administrator, and we really wanted to find the best candidate for the job. And we did get Jack as an interim, which has worked out really well. But we also wanted to ensure that the process was objective and had integrity. So we did start out with trying to get a search firm. That didn't work out, so we decided to do it on our own with Ellen's help and legal counsel. We did use kind of the same process that would have been used by a search firm, but I think we had a lot of good resources. Janet did a great job writing a lot of, the brochure, the job description. I mean, we worked together, and of course I did some stuff too, but we did a lot of work, and Ellen, you did a lot of work. We had our legal person on every personnel committee meeting. We met every week, went through the whole posting, going through all the resumes, whittling it down. We used a weighted average matrix to get it down to 6, and then we used the process of including the council members to get it down to 3. And then, of course, like we said before, we did the final interviews last week. And I'm just happy about the process that we used. I think it was fair. It was thorough. It was true to what we were trying to do. And I feel like we were able to get the best results that we could have gotten with a search firm with all of that, without the headache that, some of our neighbors are going through right now. So anyway, I really feel like Jack has the best characteristics that we were looking for. I was really happy to see that the staff was in favor, the majority. I mean, just, not getting into too many details, but that meant a lot to me that the staff really supports, and they've been working with them for, a few months. And so that was important to me, but I really believe that he can get us to the next level that we're going to, managing the council goals and objectives. And I'm just looking forward to working with him. So congratulations, Jack.
Thank you very much.
You're on the Personnel Committee.
So I would echo everything that Sue said. I think the other thing to mention is that we had an incredible pool of talent to choose from. And that was one of the fears that we had taking this on ourselves, is that we would not get a good pool of candidates, but it turned out we had our cup overfloweth. It was amazing. And so, but having said that, I have to say that, I am really happy that everyone agreed that Jack was the right person. I've worked with Jack a little bit prior to his interim appointment here, and I've always had really high regard for him and his work ethic and his steady, respectful nature. And I'm really happy that others saw that too, staff. And the feedback from the public was especially helpful, because usually, public has a lot to say after the fact, but aren't really willing to weigh in and be part of put skin in the game. And we had a great representation. We had business represented. We had planning commission, former council members of the public. So we really got a wide range of people who showed up and spoke to each of the candidates. And that feedback also was overwhelmingly in favor of Jack. So I'm really glad. I'm glad we're done with this. I'm glad that we can move forward and be out of this interim state and but very, very happy with the results.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Jack brings vast experience and open mind and willingness. He's been hearing out the council and mayor. He's always offered to do sit-downs, and this is prior to, and maybe I'm a little more biased because we had some time to work with him previous to other candidates. But during the interviews, he had great questions. He didn't cut out and have to think about what he was going to say. He had an answer ready in his head already, and I think that just comes from his vast experience and working with a community like ours, right? With the previous communities with. The DISC assessments through the process, I know that was very helpful. That's something I do with a hiring process through my employment at work in my day-to-day operations, so that was helpful. See the types of people and how they interact with individuals, so I feel like Jack was the fit. Got calls today from members of the public, some of which are in this room, saying that they thought Jack was the person. I did agree with that beforehand and would say we had a great pool of candidates and the process worked, so here we are. So thanks and welcome, Jack.
Well, I don't know if Jack's accepted this job, but.
Well, we didn't vote yet.
He told us he wanted it.
But we can talk to him later about that. But just to the public or to the citizens of Columbus, that this was a hard process. There's a lot of people, qualified people, and it's the first time I've ever been involved in hiring a city administrator. But it's a dangerous job, and when I say it's dangerous, almost all of them have been at other cities, and sometimes when they're let go, they don't know it's coming. And it was amazing the qualifications that came in that they all carry and stuff like that. But it was a long process, and a lot of people talked about interim having an advantage, and they do, and then they have a disadvantage. And I've seen that happen too in other cities where they get in there and then all of a sudden they're not welcome. So Jack fit in, and I'm glad he's our new administrator, if he accepts the job, you know. But welcome aboard, Jack.
And finally, we've kind of had a nice test run. I've got to work with Jack 3 or 4 days a week for the last 3 or 4 months. He's very genuine, I think, and he has found lots of things that need to be spiffed up or corrected or changed. And as we move into the 21st century in Columbus, I think he recognizes that and he has the experience to do it. And so I'll be happy to vote in your favor, Jack, if you'll quit emailing me at 5 a.m. At least wait till the sun comes up, please. and seriously, and it's everybody was qualified. We had 17 qualified people, but I think that maybe Jack is the best fit for Columbus. He came from a similar city. He's not trying to start a career or feather his nest or do anything. He says he likes to work and he likes the people here and he likes the city. So if all of that pans out to be true, I think we have a good fit. So thank you, Jack. We'll see what happens. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, here, let's make the motion first. Or you want to speak?
Can I say just one thing?
Get out of my chair.
No.
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody involved in this. It was a great opportunity, and I look forward to serving the residents of Columbus, the city council, and hopefully we will make things happen and do the right things going forward. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for having that trust in me.
Okay.
All right. So I think we have to make a motion, right? Okay. I move, wait a minute, where am I?
Eden number 1. Right?
I move to approve an offer of employment to Jack Davis for the position of the city administrator for the city of Columbus, subject to entering into an employment agreement.
I'll second that motion. Any other questions or discussion?
I just have a quick question. Do we also have to say subject to background check or is that subject to a background check and reference check?
Okay, so I amend the motion to add subject to a background check and, what was the other one?
Employee references.
Employee references.
And I'll re-second that, and
Okay.
I'll call for the vote.
Rob, aye.
Janet, I.
Sue, aye.
Ron, aye.
And Jesse, aye.
Okay, now we can clap.
Yay.
Thank you, Ellen, for all
Yes.
your help. It was
Yes,
really a
thank you,
pleasure to
Ellen.
work with you on
Thank you.
this.
It was my pleasure. But I have to go shake Jack's hand now.
Okay.
All right, Counselor, so now we close this portion, we close the public portion to discuss.
Yes, Mr.
Employment.
Mayor, if you want, I can just describe what's going on next, and then you can close the meeting. So because the next step is an employment agreement, under the attorney-client privilege rule, the council can meet with their attorney to give direction as we prepare that agreement. And that's done in a closed session to keep that all confidential. But nothing changes. The administrator has been selected, and since we're all very reasonable, I'm sure the terms will be reasonable, and we'll have an employment agreement here shortly. So that's that. And I would like to say, just on behalf of the firm, because Megan Rogers, my partner, has been involved every step of the way, this is once again the little city that can and does, because you go to the Capitol and you represent yourself. You take on a search like this, and you didn't use a search firm, and you're all the better for it. So it's very impressive when a community of this size can do things that communities two or three times larger maybe stumble or fumble with. And so it's been great to be a part of this process, and I want to thank you for bringing in primarily Megan to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and so the city council will hold a closed session pursuant to Minnesota statutes, section 13D.05, subdivision 3B, for discussion and advice regarding the employment agreement for the candidate selected for the city administrator. At this time, the city council will go into a closed session. So that means everyone who's waiting to go can go. And the rest of us will sit
Stay.
here and hash it out.
Take a couple minutes.